Thanks for tuning in to the Urban Scope podcast. I'm back with another rewind edition, and today I will be covering Wiz Khalifa's Rolling Papers, one of his biggest album to date. And this album dropped after the release of one of the greatest mixtapes of all time, and it was by him, which was the Cushion Orange Juice album, which a classic album, had a lot of classic hits, a lot of great production, smooth lyrics. It was almost like a jazz album, the way everything flowed and how smooth the album was. But Wiz Khalifa is a smooth rapper, and he has that smooth style that's, like I said, very jazz or blues like. And then you have to appreciate the work that he was doing, putting out all those mixtapes before and after this Rolling Papers album. But he had a lot of momentum going into this album, and he did a lot of things that changed the trajectory of his career after the release of this album as well. Now, I remember this album personally because back in 2011, I was at Marquette University, and I wasn't too familiar with Wiz Khalifa's music until he dropped the lead single Black and Yellow, which was an anthem for or an ode to his hometown team with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this was a huge song, and I like the song as well. So usually when I hear somebody's songs, most people think that they're a one-hit wonder and I don't listen to any of their music. But I always give that artist the benefit of the doubt and try to listen to what else they have to offer. And that was when I was first listening to Lupe Fiasco's Kick Push. Most people liked the song, but they didn't really talk about his music much. But I wanted to see what he had to offer, and I liked it, the rest of his catalog. So from '06 on, I've been that type of person. Once you give me one hit song, I listen to what you have, after that as well, and listen to your B-sides, because your B-sides ultimately what makes you a great. And also, when I think about this Wiz Khalifa Rolling Papers album, it got me on my soapbox again about the mixtape era and how it's missed in today's rap. Because we know the mixtape was a place where you can experiment on sounds and different things and skits and things like that you want to get out there. But I think it gave the artist the opportunity to show their personality, and we got to know more about the artist. Nowadays, they can just go on a podcast. They have social media. They have different outlets and different platforms that they can showcase their artistic expression or get the audience to know them more. The TikToks and things like that. But back then you didn't have that outlet. Mixtapes were that primary source. Social media came much after, after 2009 and 10 and all that stuff. But earlier back then, you didn't have that outlet, so to speak. It wasn't this huge thing like it is now. Pause. So, but just getting back on this Rolling Papers album, it was, like I said, his most commercially successful album, and it was huge for his brand at the time, and it crossed him over. Not just the Black and Yellow song, but the Roll Up song and all these other things that I'll get into in a little bit crossed him over because he started doing more TV appearances. He started doing movies. He did a movie with Snoop Dogg. He did a lot of other things. He married Amber Rose a couple of years later. So he got very famous in the light and became a household name, so to speak. Probably not a A-list celebrity, but he was around that CB range. And before then, he put out 2 albums prior to this Rolling Papers album that really didn't get much acclaim, but this album put him over the top. And then he put the work in. He didn't just quit and just say, "Oh, my first 2 albums didn't do well. Maybe it's not for me." He just kept working. As in the words of Kendrick Lamar, he just put his head down and kept working. So, the opening track on the album, like I said, I'm a big fan of the intros because I think you have to start with a good intro to give the audience a glimpse of you or a glimpse of what the album is going to be like. And this intro, which was called When I'm Gone, it was a very good intro because I like the piano intros and also the emotional intros. And in this song, he had one of the best hip hop quotables. He said, "When I go shopping, I tell them to pick one because they was with me when nobody's seen a vision." And that's very inspirational, because a lot of times when you do things, people don't really see the vision. They just think you're doing something. People think it's not going to work, but then when it actually works, people want to get on the bandwagon. People want to glimpse onto something. Then not, then everyone has their hands out. But he was saying, hey, these guys started with me when I was doing clubs and 10 people was there, and then now I'm selling out arenas. So I have no problem telling these guys, hey, you can go get what I get. I go get a car, you go get a car. So it was very connecting in that way. And that was one of the best hip hop quotables of all time. I like. Then he also had On My Level with Too Short, which is a very good song with the Bay Area legend and Too Short. And Too Short had a very good verse on there as well. And Wiz just showed his artistic range, being able to do slow songs, doing rap songs, upbeat songs, do anthems. He was showing that he can do it all. And he did a little singing as well, like on the Roll Up song, which was on the radio a lot, Hopes and Dreams, which he talked more about the aspiration of trying to make it and finally making it there and what it meant to him. Star of the Show, which was an anthem for, anybody who aspires to do more and to get to that level to where they can call their own shots. And that song was with Chevy Woods. I was a huge Chevy Woods fan back then. Any song that he was on with Wiz Khalifa, it always was a hit to me, especially on that Cushion Orange Juice album. And then you had Top Floor, which was great as well, and then Rooftops. So he had a lot of songs on this album that I could relate to, and then most people should have been able to relate to, just off the emotional connection that he has musically to his audience. And coming from Pittsburgh, he was unique in that way, because most of the artists coming out of Pennsylvania is from Philly, but he was able to come out of that area from Pittsburgh. And he always repped the Pittsburgh area, and even his school, I think it's called Taylor Allardyce, and it's a big school in Pittsburgh. He was always repping Pennsylvania and always repping Pittsburgh specifically. Always wearing the Pittsburgh Pirates hat, always repping for the Steelers and things like that. So, this is a legendary album. I think one of the albums that is very difficult to tell the story of hip hop without. And it was life changing for Wiz Khalifa as well. And he ascended after this album. Just if you haven't heard this album, just check it out. You don't have to be a smoker or anything like that. It's pure hip hop. It's it can connect to you emotionally, and it's a very good album to listen to where you ride in the car or sitting at home or just at work, trying to get things done. Very smooth jazz, blues type record. So as always, thank you for the continued support and likes, and continue to subscribe to the content. And until next time, I'll see you next time.